say, that thing was,
The only one working, let's put it that way.
yeah, no, I've had, because of my phone's dying, I lost one of the reminders in my phone, so I forgot to file a federal road use tax for my truck. And by the time I remembered that, and I don't owe it, so I mean, there's no penalty or anything, because I drive enough. And I had to, the government shut down, I couldn't get the website to work.
We'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
everybody get a chance to look at the minutes in the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion from Senator and a second from Jensvold to approve the minutes in the agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Discussion with possible action regarding demolition of the former LAC Law Enforcement Center. Melissa, do you want to give us some update on that?
I'm here on behalf of Forest City Economic Development and Winworth Beco to request a 30-day suspension on that action, drop dead timeline. We won't ask for anything beyond 30 days.
By that time comes, you probably have longer than that anyway. It'll be all soft and mucky, and the best time to knock it down is when the ground is froze, yes.
The last 30 days was actually up on February 26th, and I forgot to put it on the agenda.
You want another 30 days?
That's, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So beyond that, I know Beth is in discussion with somebody, but beyond that, my question is, if we were to demo it, where are we getting the funds for any disposal costs, or is the road department just going to take it down, without any cost to the rest of the county, or how is that going to work? What is the actual cost going to be to tear it down?
But that's a building that has served the whole county, so I wouldn't object to the secondary road just doing it for the county. It shouldn't necessarily have to be a cost, because it has served everyone, no matter what district.
Rural and city have been served by the sheriff's departments.
Okay, so maybe we should have the engineer here for this discussion. Because my point is, if we have somebody interested that can make something of it, why are we going to pay it or have costs incurred to take it down and be at a loss of profit? What's his number? What's that? Oh.
Secondary road has got to be the biggest one on there. Where's our engineer? It's our engineer. 7530.
You reached Scott Minders, County Engineer. Please.
So anyway, I guess I'd just like to, he's supposed to be up, maybe he's on his way. I'd like to have a discussion with him if he's willing to do that, or if he's, usually he's always said that he would build it back somehow. So, I just want to make sure we're clear about everything, and that you guys understand that there may be some costs incurred in that week.
Well, there'd be costs either way. I mean, it'll cost them money out of their budget, or it'll cost other departments money out of their budget, however you want to do it. And it's going to cost
Would it be
what?
Kevin's budget? Would it be
Yeah.
miscellaneous?
And then
And we don't have it in the budget.
yes, I was just saying, if that's the case, it's not in any of the budgets.
So my point is that we're better off waiting for the possibility of disposing of it somehow without tearing it down. For now. There he is.
Gotcha.
So we were discussing the law enforcement center and possibly extending the deadline for tearing it down. And I brought up the point where if your department was to tear it down, is there costs incurred?
I think the fairest way to do it would be to have whatever fund is appropriate reimburse secondary roads for the funds incurred.
So I guess before we'd even go down that road, I'd want to know what the estimate would be.
Okay,
What's the value of that?
what would it take for us to, the secondary road department, to clear the site and restore it to a grass lot, pretty much? Does that include, I mean, has the asbestos been completed? And
Supposedly.
The only thing I know of that's still there would be like the door on the boiler. That's
okay.
asbestos.
I mean, do you want me to include all of that?
I'm guessing.
You'd have to hire somebody.
Well, I think either
At least get a
way,
little bit of,
I think either way, we may have to be removing the asbestos. Either way, whether we're selling it to somebody else or tearing it down ourselves, I think we're responsible for that.
who would be the most familiar on what's been done with the asbestos, Kevin?
Okay.
So, okay. Maybe I can touch base with him and then come up with an estimate with Mark.
Yeah.
He would know better than I would, so.
So if we want to, put this off until for another 30 days, give them a chance to put together some numbers, give them a chance to look at what they're working with.
If you did task the secondary road department with doing that, would we have a pretty loose schedule to do so?
Well, that's
Not all summer.
what would be your best timeline?
Probably 3 months ago.
Yeah.
Kind
And
of
it wasn't snowing.
before snow piles up, but kind of depending on winter. But
Now would be the best wait almost for middle summer, I suppose.
yeah, I don't know if that's
They're
something.
in their construction time.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something Mark would want to tear into in the spring, or got guys spread pretty thin when things get warm enough to work on roads. I can't say without talking to Mark. But I can get that for you too.
Since it is mostly concrete and brick, do you have a disposal site?
I'd have to see about how all the asbestos works into all that, but if we can separate it, maybe some value to that.
You know, I mean, people come in and crush it up and make fill out of it or whatever.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a good possibility or not.
I know they don't care for brick as much as they do cement.
Yeah, I'll talk to Mark, come up with the best option.
And it's clay block a lot. The brick covers clay block floors, concrete on top of it. Well, I guess, are we giving it 30 days for now and look at it in another 30 days?
Actually, it won't go down for probably another 60 at least, so.
Yeah, I don't know, it's,
Yeah, it's fine.
yeah, I guess so.
So basically no action taken either way. All right, thank you. Scott Minor will discuss secondary road maps.
I don't have anything other than credit to our snow removal staff for putting in a long day on Sunday again. I think did a nice job in spite of the strange weather we're having here with melting temperatures, but blowing snow as well.
I know Sarah Gordon's roads were pretty bad on Sunday. They didn't do a whole lot to them. States were good. Certainly not.
Gary was,
I have a question for you then. How do they classify gravel roads? As through roads, farm to market roads, and how often do they reclassify them? As far as making minimum maintenance roads.
So let me be clear, your question is how do they classify whether a road is farm to market or whether it's level A or level B?
Right. And how often do they reclassify them?
Yeah, whether it's farm to market road or not, that system is pretty consistent, and it hasn't changed since I've been here, and I don't know when it's been changed here in this county. Not something that changes very often, and it takes action from our state association to change any of that. That doesn't affect a whole lot of our decision making, except for farm to market designated roads have a source of funding that we can use on those roads that's a little bit different from the rest of them.
What's it take to make them a minimum maintenance road?
To make them a minimum maintenance road, so from a level A to level B, it's just a decision by the board of supervisors from a recommendation from the engineer's office. And typically the criteria is if there are no active residences on a mile, it's a candidate for level B road. Now we do have quite a few miles in the county that do not have active residents and are level A merely because of traffic. I think that that's something that can be changed at the local level, but we have been pretty consistent with that system in the last maybe 5 years. A number of years ago, quite a few were added to the level B system in order to eliminate an operator and a machine and a route. And so I think since that point, it's been pretty consistent.
But they haven't changed very many of them being Class B in the last 5 years.
In the last 5 years, which I've been here 6 is all, in the last 5 or 6 years, I think there's been 1 or 2 changes. I can't remember.
The reason I asked this is because I went from Drake Blacktop to Friesenberg Larson's down 70th Avenue yesterday. And if you're not driving a truck, you're not going to get through that road because there was no material left on these damn gravel roads. And that wasn't the only one I was on. And I realize we've had snow and everything, but if there's no material on them and you're down to clay and mud, not going to be good from here on out.
So is 70th up there, is that level B?
No,
It's level A.
all the way from Drake to Highway 9. Because there's only 1 mile in there that there's no residents on it. And I know you have a policy here, if there's a hog building on there, if it's a Class B, you don't plow it, right? But you still maintain the road.
So level B roads, we maintain at a lesser level than level A, but they still do receive regular maintenance, albeit not as frequent. They do receive spot loads of rock as needed, but they do not get resurfaced end to end near as frequently as a level A road would be. You know, those are typically entirely resurfaced about every 3 years on rotation. Level B roads are more spot loads. and as needed, I guess. So there's a difference, but we try to keep level B roads, you know, up to a standard that can support farm traffic and all those kinds of things in the summer when conditions are right.
So you say they're on a schedule. What is the schedule?
Well, we try to do a third of the mileage, and some level Bs are prorated a little bit. Can't say how the formula is exactly, but in general, about a third of the roads get resurfaced with rock or gravel every year, and those are chosen by our staff to be whichever roads, you know, need it the worst. So if it's a really high traveled road, it might get resurfaced every year. Really low, maybe every 4 or 5 years, but averages out to be about 3.
I would challenge your supervisors to go out and drive some of these gravel roads that I was on yesterday. 'Cause
Level
you don't
B?
have- No,
No.
Class A's. That if you weren't in a pickup, you would not get through them, I guarantee it.
I'll vouch for that. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem. I mean, don't you remember as kids that our fathers took us to the blacktops on the tractors?
I do. But I'm saying there's hardly any material left on them. If
You're
if
not
you
gonna-
get out of the center, you're in the clay and mud.
You're not gonna see it right now. When it dries up, I mean. Even on the level A?
Yep.
Where's that at?
Go out to 140 off of Highway 9 and go north.
Be careful.
Yeah.
You know, gravel roads are in tough shape right now.
Yeah,
And
I drove them on the way down.
Yeah.
Ours are too.
There's a lot of spots that are black dirt that you notice all over. If these roads weren't made for the traffic we have on them either.
They were made for 90,000 pound semis.
They were made for an old Model T. But now we got semis and all kinds of shit going on.
And unfortunately, we can't control the traffic pattern of the heavier traffic either, as much as we try.
And manure wagons, they're tough on them. One
So
spring,
I mean, put you in a hot seat, how would you rectify the problem? They get a cost now. Also,
okay,
We can have whatever we're willing to pay for.
so yesterday I went from Freeman and Larson's to the south corner. I used to live on 80th Avenue. Now there's nobody on that road. But that road was plowed both ways and it was not mud. And I followed that plow around. It went 2 miles north, a mile east, and then another mile north. And there's nobody lives on that road. Take that cost that you're plowing that snow and put that in rock. And why are we plowing that? Because there's no residences on it.
I'll refer to
Something we can,
I got a farm that nobody lives for 2 miles and it's a Class B road and it's nothing but crap. And you're saying just because nobody lives there, they shouldn't maintain it. Well, I'm getting to where I have a hard time getting out there.
I'm not saying they shouldn't maintain it. But if there's hog buildings on it, why are we paying for the snow removal?
we do not know level B.
No, they're not Bs, they're As, but there's no residences on it. I agree with you, I've been on your road trying to get to it.
I pulled you out last time. To help you out a little bit, that's what I do at the coffee shop. We sit there and they start talking about Trump. And I say, well, if you were in the White House, what would you do?
we've had some debate over the, you know, time I've been here, certain roads about switching to or not to level B or level C. And safe to say there's rarely a unanimous case where everybody agrees that a level B would be better than a level A or vice versa. And so it's just need a time for an appetite to, you know, look at the system, see if there are any more candidates.
Wouldn't it be worth the time now, this time of year, to go plow the snow off the level Bs? Clear them off so they don't get so sloppy for so long. Wouldn't that be worth the time now? I know you don't do it all winter long, but now when it starts melting, get them cleared off so they dry up.
What's your calls, Kevin?
I don't have any direct experience with that. I don't think that as a rule we've done that in the spring. I mean, if you went out there now and tried to plow them, I think you'd be doing more harm than good. You know, trying to keep traffic off of them is
Right.
the biggest
You have
thing.
to admit that this is an anomaly for what our past has been. Now, it might continue to be doing.
Right, but the snow, even any snow on, granted, we got more this year, but
But the level,
most winters, if you went out there early spring
Yeah.
and cleared them off, I think you'd be a lot better off.
the level B says travel at your own risk, and I would hope that the people in the county would see if it's quote muddy or whatever, they simply wouldn't drive on it, you know.
But if you have to.
If you have to,
If
yeah.
you got getting up to the farm, how else are
Right,
you gonna get there?
Yeah.
I missed out on most of this discussion, but as far as the fairness issue, those grade B roads, those people are paying just as much taxes as the regular roads. And somebody might be living on acreage paying rent, that aren't paying a penny in property tax, and they're getting their road opened. And, you know, I talked to some of you guys about the road, they're so bad out by our place that you can hardly get through it with a pickup on a rain. And then they went out and did some patchy work, and I don't know if it was 50% clay, or once you break through that base, you've ruined that road, and it takes years and years and years to ever get the compaction back, so that every time it rains, they bust through. Every time it rains, they bust through. The damage has been done. Now it's gonna cost some money to repair those things back. In the fall, you know, I think it was Bill I said too, who's gonna pay to pull these semis through these roads when you gotta harvest your crops in the fall and the mud is a foot deep? If we're not gonna fix the roads up, why should we pay taxes?
Well, I was part of this. We spent $19 million on roads and bridges here in the past 7 years. And it doesn't seem like we're ahead of the ballgame much. But, at what cost do you want to do this? Maybe it's a
Where's the
It's a hard decision.
Where's
It's
the
the same with the courthouse here, okay?
Yeah.
At what point are we gonna quit maintaining this courthouse at $500,000 a year? And do something different? I mean, these are decisions that every one of us have to make.
Right, but the question should be is, all these properties, these sections of land that are paying taxes, what are they getting for their taxes?
I agree with you 100%. You have no argument against. I don't have an argument against that.
I mean, somehow this money got diverted to something else, and now there's no money to do what should have been done. And when they first went to grade B, they did a much better job of grading them a couple times a year, but now they've let them get so bad. Yeah, you know, it's like anything else. You let your house go to pot. It costs a lot more to fix it back up than if you just maintain it while you're living in it.
Well, that's what we struggle with, is the maintenance and the cost of it. So, I mean, all I ever get is, and it's a true, it's a great plumbing. You know, our taxes have gone up 30% in the last 3 years. It's ridiculous. So how much more do we want our taxes to go up? Are we at that point in the history of Winnebago County where some drastic changes have to take place? I don't know, you know, and I don't have that answer right now. I couldn't agree more with you, you know, the guy that lives on a level B, they're paying just as much tax and not getting the service that everybody else is. What do we do? What would you do?
I would look through the whole budget and find out, there's gotta be fat somewhere. There's gotta be fat somewhere. And
We argue that every year.
I know we do, but what do? We argue it, but we don't do anything. You know, obviously
Yeah.
we made a decision to let the grade B go bad. You know, that was a decision that was made. I've served, like the North Iowa Board for 18 years. I know your problems. But I also know from serving on there that there's certain things the superintendent takes care of. And if you really need money, there's places to find money. But yes.
What does it cost to maintain a level A per mile?
That's a number I could calculate, but offhand, I can't say.
Yeah, so my question to you is,
With the
if you,
paving of Osmus, right, I had that number for you.
so you were saying that you're on a 3-year rotation, 3 services, right?
Oversimplified, but yes.
Okay, so how does that equate when you look at a level B and a level A? Do you do it more often at level A and less often at a level B? What's your cost?
No, level Bs rarely get resurfaced unless they're in really, really terrible shape. Generally, we wait for good conditions and spot load them. Just haul as much as is needed instead of, surfacing it from end to end.
So then level A should get more than a 3-year.
Like I said, it's kind of like a prorated formula where if you have level B roads, you'd have so territories are kind of split into the same number of miles, but it's not the exact same number of miles. If there's more level Bs in your territory, then you would have more miles because those take less maintenance. So the formula takes into account that level B roads get lesser maintenance.
I guess that's one of the arguments here that I gave. Should they?
Well, if you go back to when we had much fewer level A roads, we had an extra maintainer, we had an extra operator on staff at all times, and all the fuel and maintenance that goes with that operation. And if you calculate that out, it's going to be a substantial cost that it would take us to then maintain those roads as level A, and that doesn't include all of the rock and materials it would take to upgrade them from level B to level A, so it'd be a big capital cost as well. We're cutting numbers tight every year just to do what we are out there today, so to upgrade them to level A is not an option with our current funding.
My question is, if you cut back resources on the level Bs, that should free up more rock and labor, whatever, for the level As that are used more often. Is it actually working that way?
Yeah.
Or is that money going somewhere else?
You're saying since we have so many level Bs, certainly we have that money saved up for other purposes, right? Is what you're saying?
Yeah. Does it actually come out and work that way?
That would be valid, except we all know prices have exploded over the last 10 years.
True.
Yeah.
So,
this is, work from my predecessor, Jim, which he did a lot of work on showing that, our inflation, our construction index, the cost of materials for construction projects has gone up substantially, and our revenue has grown much slower. So every year we're putting ourselves in a position of lesser buying power than the year prior. So at some point, got to make cuts just to even break even to stay at the same level.
Just like farming nowadays.
Yeah, well, sure.
The question here is, how many dollars, a dollar 1,000 in tax, how much money does that bring into the county?
Say that again.
when you increase taxes, say $1,000 a 1,000, which would be about $1 an acre, how much money does that generate? I mean, the amount of increase in taxes the last 3 years should have also increased a phenomenal amount of money.
But you
Fix the
gotta break
roads.
it down to the rural.
What part of your tax bill went up, you know? Like, you know, if you look at your tax bill, you got schools, county, township, all these things. And you also have valuations, which maybe have changed.
Top of my head, it'd be about $25,000.
$1?
Well, we've got 535 million, so knock off, you said per 1,000, so knock off 2, it'd be $50,000, and we get half that, roughly the county, so.
It'd be something we could easily put our finger on if we
Yeah.
could. And
The only thing, you know,
Like,
I know $1, 1,000 for the North Iowa School District generates about $400,000.
I was gonna say it, but
So something's wrong here.
I think it'd be closer to.
I'll get up my head.
half a million.
I mean,
I did that in my head.
as we could surely put this
One
together.
thing
and-
that's also going on now that is costing, I mean, you know, like back in the 60s and 70s, we weren't replacing bridges like we are now. And how many dollars are we spending on bridges every year? Do you have an estimate? Probably
500 to 1,000 to $1 million if locally, and, you know,
But didn't you just say that that was TIF money?
no, that was stuff in the past. We're still currently replacing 6 or 7 bridges every year now.
Yeah.
I was on one decimal point.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Has there ever been any talk about bulldozing the level B roads out and farms, let it go back to farm?
yeah, that would be an option. Most of the level Bs have landlocked properties. They have an 80 in the middle that doesn't have access anywhere.
Where it's possible, you know?
Yeah,
How much would
I'd-
you have?
So then you'd have to maintain a access for the person that has his in the middle, and he'd have to drive across to whoever else is farming that, you know, so then you'd have access.
There's probably some that could be, not all of them.
Yeah, I would venture a guess that there are very, very small numbers, if any, but that is something.
Because I can think of a couple dirt roads that go back to fields that guys own one right in the middle of the section. The fence line is a dirt road, so the guy can get to his property.
So looking at our schedule, it's about 400,000 per dollar on rural levies. Because they're at 4.4 on the levy rate for rural basic, and it generates $1.75 million.
You guys are asking a lot of good questions. They aren't questions we haven't asked before.
This might have to be something we take care of during the 10 o'clock budget hearing. We're scheduled for a 9:30 public hearing for annexation and reclassification, so.
Yeah, I'd like to come back to this.
Yeah.
I real quick here, I think this is a subject that it would behoove all the trustees and us to get together and talk about it. Trustees are more closer to it than the rest of us. Okay.
All right, we're past 9:30, so we better get to our item number 6, public hearing for DD 3-11 annexation report.
Make a motion to open the public hearings.
I'll second it.
Got a motion from Stenberg and a second from Bill to open the public hearing for the DD 3-11 annexation report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Good morning. Drainage and roads.
Yeah, there you go.
This
Both-
is,
And both of them are about to get worse.
oh yeah, absolutely. This will get you oriented in where this joint 311 is, and it also will show you where the annexation parcels are. I don't think so. You don't want to do
Yes,
this?
it is.
This is a common situation where you authorize a reclassification, and as part of the reclassification, we verify the watershed boundary. Keep in mind that this original watershed boundary was probably drawn by people on horseback, early 1900s. They're amazingly accurate, but what we find nearly always is there's just a handful of parcels where they drew the watershed boundary following a property line instead of the actual watershed line. So you'll just see a few areas scattered around the boundary of this district. This is small, but it's just so bulky.
Whatever you got left, just.
Sure, I didn't very much, here's just a couple more.
They can have, I can look at links.
Oh. Watershed boundary. Yeah. Okay, oh, all right. Total acres we came up with was just a little over 186 acres to be annexed. And this district has like 39,741 acres in it. So a very small effect actually as far as
How many acres total?
186 total for annexation.
Yeah, but the other.
39,741 total acres. Very large district.
New total is, that's the new.
Yes, correct. We did the reclassification report assuming that this annexation would be approved. Using topography to draw the watershed is way more accurate than just going out there and trying to figure out where it is. So we feel confident with this map and the annexation report, and would recommend that that annexation be approved.
Well, I guess since this is a public hearing, is there any questions on the annexation, the 3-11?
My question would be, how many acres of our land is going to be included? Which farms are we talking about? And how much per acre are we talking about? We got a letter that said that land is being annexed, but it didn't say what sections, it didn't say how much land, it didn't say what the cost is. So, how could a guy come to a meeting and discuss something when you don't even know what's going on?
That's why in the letter it says to call me.
Yes, we missed that.
Here's I have several copies of the actual annexation report, the list, the parcel number, the landowner, and how many acres. So, I have several copies of that if you want that. See that?
You're going to understand, aren't you?
Yeah, there's just not that many acres.
Rick, what's the total cost of this reclassification project?
Well, the total on the reclass is about $75,000. That's what I spread out over, and right now we're just looking at the annexation.
I understand.
Most of the ag ground came out $2 an acre or less. So the cost for this one would be about $25 for you, because it's about $2 an acre is what we're doing for the reclass. But the first hearings for the annexation.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. This will lead right into the reclass.
I'm up for it.
I'm too brainless.
Glad to answer anything I can.
I guess one other time we went through this and people had some questions whether their land truly drains that way or not. Is it possible to table the acceptance of the annexation report until people have had a chance to look at what's being annexed?
You can continue it if you want.
Right.
You'd have to continue the reclass too, because we got those acres included in there.
Right.
Is that something they need?
Well, I guess it's a matter of, the idea with the notice is if there is any question, to get a hold of the information and check it out, but
like in Sue's case, over by Lake Mills, it was going in a different direction. They went back and changed it. I just want to alleviate that.
I've had no one call me in the last month about the annexation, so unless they have a question right now, I would assume that it's correct. The people that did call me regarding the reclassification, if they had a question, I had them call Rick already, so that'll be next if they have a question.
we had two landowners that thought we had an error in it, but what it turned out was they had they lived in like Titanca, no, let's see, what was it? Thompson, they lived in Thompson, but they had farmland in the other district. So that's what they were given notice on. So once they understood that, it was not a problem. So we've tried to answer any calls that have been referred our way.
Did you get an annexation letter?
I think so.
Well, there were two letters. If you got two, that was the annexation, otherwise you just got one. And then it was just the reclassification.
I just have a question on the annexation.
Okay.
Has the annexation, now we're in the annexation part of the meeting, right?
Right.
Have these people not been paying into the district?
Correct.
Okay. What have they been paying into? Nothing?
Probably nothing. Unless there's a joining district, that happens at times, but probably
This
nothing.
one I got to the good one.
No,
Now-
that's not true for us. We've been in the drainage district.
Well,
But
what
you might
us-
have other property too that's in it.
there you go. That's what usually happens. We only get piece of your parcel annexed. The rest of the parcel might have been there already. That happens a lot. So you're still paying, it's just that we go up those acres you were
Yeah.
talking about.
Yeah, you're doubling up.
Yeah,
You're gonna pay to this district and to that district.
yeah, yeah. So, but and there is a section in the code that allows you to go back and go after funds from somebody that should have been in and wasn't, but it usually amounts to $5 or something.
It would be incidental, I just
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I
Yeah,
just wondered
it
what
is.
direction they had been paying it in.
Yeah.
Clarification, thank you.
You bet.
Congratulations.
We need a winner every time, don't we?
Does anybody else have any questions on the annexation, or do you feel like it's a good report?
I guess I have a question for the board. As this being a joint drainage district, was Cassuth County ever contacted in regards to?
Yes, and they did not want to reclassify their portion of the district. So we just did our portion, and we're keeping the percentage the same.
I'm just curious how that's, and that's, we're into, probably into reclass again, just how that's done when you do a portion. You don't have the joint board approved.
Yeah, we'll go through that.
Do you think they would have been acres added to it?
That's probably their business because what's done is the percent that each county pays on the main stays the same. It's just how you split your area to handle your share. It'd be up to them to decide if they want to go after annexation or
If
not.
they had more acres, wouldn't that dilute it a little bit for the farmers in Winnebago? For the landowners?
Boy, 1/10 of 1% maximum. often you go joint meetings, do the joint reclassification, that's the most common. But they just, the other county didn't want to redo their portion of the watershed. That's their prerogative.
I have a question. To, what was it, 1,000 some acres we picked up?
186.
186. So how much did it cost to pick up that 186 acres?
Very little, because we always run the watershed as part of the reclassification. So it's part of the reclassification engineering work, and that was all inclusive and $2 an acre or less. If you put that $2 an acre on the 186, there's 372 acres or dollars to give some idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, often it's not worth the cost to do an annexation.
That's what I was curious.
Yeah.
What,
That happens.
what's the fees for the engineering part of it?
Just under $2 an acre for a total of $75,000.
75,000.
Yeah, because it's so many acres, 39,740.
I know, it's a big, it's huge. In fact,
Yeah.
it's hard to even find where you're.
Oh, absolutely.
Where you're
You
at.
almost need a big map and an aerial photograph to really figure it all out.
Yeah,
When you look at our county map, you know, there's several sub-districts that are dumping into this that are in this large map. That looks a lot different than this does because it includes a bunch of districts.
Yes.
So if someone thinks in this district it's, the outlines are not correct, we need to say that now, right?
Next one.
At the next one?
Yep.
Okay. So if you think that the water on your farm heads the other direction and tile goes the other way, that's in the next portion.
Now, we run into situations where sometimes the water is tiled a different way, but surface water may still go into this district. So there'd be a reduction in the reclassification, but we'd still have them in the watershed. Gets a little confusing.
So why are we doing these annexations and reclassifications when they're very expensive?
The last
Yes.
one was done 70 years ago, and in our old system, in the computer, say you split off part of your farm, sometimes those parcels get lost. So I wanted to make sure that all the right parcels are paying into what they should be.
Sure. We've had that conversation where you just want to make it right. It just seems really expensive.
But this one, you know, with $2 an acre is pretty cheap to get it right. And now, the last one was 70 years ago, we can go 70 more years.
Yeah.
And our new computer system won't allow us to have a parcel fall off. You can't complete a split unless all the drainage is correct. Any kind of tax you have on there, it won't let you continue. So now I feel more confident that everything will be correct going forward.
We made a decision to just try to clean everything up.
Yeah.
So we are reclassifying, every time we do a project, we're reclassifying that district. And, for the reason that she just said.
Was there a project as part of this?
There was a small one, but we've not ever cleaned, to my knowledge, I guess, cleaned the whole length of ditch 3 because that would be crazy expensive for how many miles it would be. So we've only ever spot cleaned it. So I did have a spot cleaning, but that wouldn't amount to much for everyone that's involved.
And in some districts, there have been landowners that have really been getting screwed. So we just made the decision, we're gonna do it. We're gonna try to get it done for every district. And it'll take a long time.
But it's gotta be justified. If
Right.
there's
Yeah.
good, if there's a good reclass in place, there's no sense touching it.
Right.
Right. And I look at it every time.
The old classifications they're so different than we look at it today. Back then, probably 50 to 60% of the ground was pasture or swamp. Now it's all farmed. Much of it's pattern tile. So the people, what's happened really is the people in the outer edges of these districts are paying more than they used to because they have probably pattern tile and dump into the system. So land use has changed so much. I'd venture to say if a reclassification is 30 or 40 years old, it's probably very unbalanced and should be considered for reclassification. This one being 70, yeah. It's just different today than it was that long ago as far as benefit.
So from going forward, every time anybody wants something fixed or changed, it's going to trigger an annexation?
No.
Not necessarily.
Okay, and who gets to decide that?
Well, we do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, ultimately you, because we'll have the public hearing and,
sure.
You know, and if we get enough resistance, we wouldn't do it.
Yeah, there shouldn't be another annexation unless someone petitions to come in and they do some tiling to bring an area outside of this into your district. But then that has to be approved too in case that overloads what it's dumping into. So, and this annexation wouldn't have been triggered without the reclassification because we check the boundaries every time we do a reclass.
What are you gonna do different with it? Now, we're on reclassification now. What are you gonna do different?
Oh, no, we're on annexation still.
You have to still.
And I've got different, I'm waiting for.
I guess
the
I'd
next
ask,
step.
is there any more questions on the annexation part? Hearing none.
Move to those.
Okay.
I'll second it.
I've got a motion and a second to close the annexation public hearing. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Move to open the reclass report.
I'll second it. Oh, to approve it, you said? You said to approve it?
No, he just moved
Oh,
forward
okay.
with reclassification.
All right. I got a motion and a second to open the public hearing for reclassification of 3-11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, now we're on the reclassification.
Okay, I'll just do a real quick summary if that's all right. This was done very similar to how we usually do these. We put a lot of weight on the soils to come up with the points. The code is very brief in how it describes doing a reclassification. You put the land with the highest benefit at 100 points per acre and you graduate it down based on less benefit. So we follow that from the code. The soils give you so many characteristics of the soil, of the drainage, and then we also look at crop suitability to see how one soil might compare to another. But soils books, it gets the slope, expected yield on crops. Some of them even say good for a row crop if drained. It's amazing what you can pick out of those soils books for information. Then we also look at proximity. Where is this land compared to this example, the ditch? As you get further from the ditch, we do some reduction because they have to pay to get their water to the ditch. They have to pay for tile to get to the ditch. So we do some reduction as you get further from the ditch. Those factors are all taken into account in preparing this report. Yeah.
8 years ago, maybe even 9 years ago, when they did the reclass up for you their time. You guys got screwed on that property north. So what I'd like to ask is, they were at the far end of the ditch, and they went from what, 12 to 25, something like that?
They went on that PQR deal,
Yeah.
and they went the distance, and the further you were from the open ditch, the higher price your taxes were.
Right.
And ours went up Ours went up
ridiculous.
over 300%,
Yeah.
and we were in the swamp.
So what's the
at the
difference
end.
here?
But he's saying now the further away from the tile, it's gonna be reduced.
Every engineering company does this a little differently, because the code simply says, this is done based on benefit, the land getting the most benefit gets 100 points, and you graduate the benefit down. There's a company or two that must have 8 or 10 factors they take into account. Years ago, someone took it on themselves to get reports from engineers and compare them. The end result is not that much different, they found back then, even those different procedures were used to get there.
Well, it was for the rig boys.
Not
Yeah.
only that, probably had twice as much ground out this year as previously. So our reward for paying 300% more in drainage tax was, we got more backed up because of the water pressure, and we ended up with a lot more drowned out.
Well, as I remember, you didn't get any benefit.
No,
Yeah.
no, it was a detriment to us.
Right. So how does that figure in?
Well, okay, one of the benefits is getting a better outlet closer to you. Drainage attorneys will tell you that. You still will need to pay to get your water there, more than likely. And on ones like this has the main ditch and then has tile laterals. So everybody pays on the main ditch, and we're trying to make it fair on how they pay on the main ditch. And then they pay on the laterals also. So there's kind of a double whammy on the same land, but one part of it's for the main ditch, the other one's for the lateral. Yeah, every one of these is a little different. This system has worked for us for 20 or 30 years, basically.
First thing though, they need to admit to is if that dredge is full of water and your lateral is almost level, that water will back pressure and it'll feed backwards up into your land rather than go down the dredge.
Yes, that will happen temporarily, but then
Temporarily kills the crop.
yeah, oh yeah, I'm not arguing with you at all. Yeah, you have that. There's hardly a drainage district in the county that isn't undersized. I mean, even the ditches maybe only carry off 2 inches of runoff a day. We get 4 and 6 inch events now.
So shouldn't that be looked into? I mean, as far as, okay, in the rig boys' situation. It's like, I think I remember you said it was even, your land was even a little bit lower than the ditch. Or the flow was full.
That was DD6, and that was a completely different engineer.
No, I know that.
We would have to reclassify that ditch if we wanted to change that again.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is getting to your formula, it doesn't always work.
Well,
the standard formula, that's where I'm coming from.
And this is
what I want to explain.
Our standard, I guess. Other standards are different. We're trying to take care of some of that by reducing as they get further from the ditch, because they have to pay more money to get their water to the ditch. So we're trying to take some of that into account. And if some of these are near the watershed boundary, the soils will take care of part of that also, because they're a little more sloping. There might be more clarion soils where the points are lower. So between that and the proximity factor, we're trying to help that situation as much as we can.
So is there a remedy, or is there something we trustees should be doing in that case here, where they went up 300% and got absolutely no benefit? Is that something we should be looking at?
The difficulty is, how do you look at that? You have, okay, like this report we're presenting today for reclassification, you have the right to make adjustments to that if you feel that is proper. So take in the information. I've been to reclassification hearings that have been continued because questions have come up that want us to look into, and then we meet again to go over the answers to those questions. And then you do have the right to adjust these.
My suggestion on that would be, if there, I don't even know where, but say there's over a 10% increase charge in your 40 acres, that those farmers should be notified in the beginning. The problem with back to our situation was, by the time we found out how much it was gonna increase, everything had been done, and it was just about impossible to go back and make a correction. Whereas if we'd have known about it a month earlier, we could have met and said, you know what the history of this 80 acres is? And if you didn't believe me, visit 8 neighbors and ask them. But by the time we found out what was gonna be done, it was too late in the game.
It's not uncommon, like this one that's 70 years old. I believe there will be parcels that their percentage went up a lot. Double wouldn't be out of line at all, maybe 4 times, 5 times, just because it was done so differently back in the early 1900s. The land wasn't farmed, it was pasture. And then the area right along a dredge ditch, for example, they were paying 90% of the cost. That isn't happening with any engineering firm anymore.
And we have the authority to change that percentage?
Yes, if you have reason to believe, you know, if there's a justification, yes. Before final approval, you have the right to amend it.
I got a comment on that. I don't know, 8-10 years ago, they cleaned up some trees, you know, and all that junk along the dredge ditch, fine. I got, I don't know, 300 acres that the dredge ditch goes through. And I got another farm a mile away, same district, you know, dredge ditch goes through, and I got the bill, and it cost me 8 times as much per acre on the land that the ditch goes through than the farm that the ditch didn't go through. That seemed really inequitable.
That seems high. I don't know what other reasoning there might have been involved in that, but
yeah, but it's on a per acre basis. I mean, that's a fair comparison. I mean, it's apples to apples.
Yeah, that gives you a comparison to how they looked at, how differently they looked at each of those.
Yeah, so if you reclassify, is that gonna make that particular situation better or worse? Close proximity to a drainage ditch.
Well, the proximity factor we use will help reduce that away from the ditch somewhat. But we rarely get up over 35 or 40% reduction, depending on how far out it is. So that would help the situation somewhat. Okay. But compare a Webster to a Clarion. Those are, the Clarion's about half or less per acre, simply because it doesn't need the drainage as much. I know you still have the side hill issues to deal with. Matter of fact, the worst I was ever stuck was in a side hill seep, doing a reclassification. So we're trying to help those situations, but there are soils that are so much different from each other as far as need for tile that it could be, you might have to multiply it by 2 to 5 times to get what they're going to spend, and then we reduce it by the proximity. And it sounds like we would probably, how far away was the one from the ditch?
Mile.
Okay. Yeah, we'd have probably been at least 20% reduction on that, which would get them a little closer, but it still sounds like a lot of difference.
Say, Rick.
Yeah.
Question on factors that you used in reclassification are wetness and proximity, the only 2 that you used.
Well, wetness, soils would be suitability, crop suitability, expected yields, need for drainage, slope. The soils takes care of our slope issue. I know some firms use a slope factor. We use the soils as our slope indicator. So.
Okay, so you use all of those items within the soil type?
Yes, yes, yeah. That's what we try and do with it.
Do you use use or runoff factors at all?
Use comes in with like when you have any town land, any commercial ground in the same district as the ag ground. So use comes in based on, is it residential, is it commercial, is it ag ground?
I consider that a runoff factor, but as far as use, the amount of facility that you use, do you consider that at all?
Not really. We try and maintain the same level of drainage wherever we are on the project. So, that's one that's commonly used, but we don't use that directly.
Yeah, that's why I asked, that's what we use.
Yeah, yeah, and I know other firms do that too. We'll do it in a case where it's a long main, and then we'll break it into sections. Then that will affect it, but here.
I met with the board a year ago, and there was a ditch cleaning. Rick was here and involved with it. And it appears that must be a sub-district into this larger district, is that correct? In section 27 and 28 of King, or just the west of Thompson. And is that going to be classified again?
No. The districts around it were not reclassified.
Okay, I mean, it's on the map here, is why.
Right.
Yeah.
So just the parcels came in, but I did not reclassify that individual district.
Okay, but that is a sub-district of this larger.
The watershed goes this way, yes.
Yeah, that's done, correct?
Right.
And like the rigs that was done 8 years ago, is that being redone?
No.
That's not being redone either, okay.
No.
I just needed to clarify.
Sure.
I mean, we just went through it, if you need to do it again, you know.
Yeah.
Now, do you take in consideration, where there's a good CSR, but it consistently drowns out? And it would be tough for you to know that without people telling you. I mean, non-productive areas are non-productive areas, period. They might have a decent CSR, but boy, if they don't produce, it's a tax bill with, you know, no, and I realize that it needs to pay for some. I just didn't know what weight you give it and how you determine that, because it's pretty hard to see on a map.
Well, it's hard to see on a map, but if there's pockets like that, the intent is that you have the right to outlet that with a tile and connect it to the county system. So
I'm not debating the fact that it's there. It's just, once again, is non-productive and has, for the most part, always been non-productive.
Because of drainage?
Yeah, it's just inadequate drainage or grade or both. You know, I mean, it's not only drainage, but it's grade of the drainage. And then, you know, others have added into it, but you haven't. But it's always been non-productive, not something new. Probably not taken into consideration previously, but the CSR would still be, and soils would still be very adequate to raise a crop if you had a drought.
yeah, that's...
You know, drainage law is almost like the policies we have at the courthouse here.
That's right, yep.
Someone's gonna get screwed.
Well, I just didn't know if now was the time to, you know, in reclassification, as it was done with this other sub-district, now is the time to talk to Rick and the board. And if you have something that seems to be quite obvious, as the rigs did not get addressed because they didn't know it, now's the time to talk about it.
Well, you know, if I'll give you an example. Mark Hanna over by the Little Church. He's got a ditch that goes through his property right behind his house. I guess it's his son. Anyway, he's got about 30 acres that he can't farm because it drowns out every year. And he's getting screwed in his drainage district, but by law, there's nothing we can do about it.
Well, in reclassification, you can have Rick address it, and the supervisors can address it, but once the ink is dry, it's my understanding that's how it's going to be as far as the levy of the drainage district. Now, I'm not asking for anything to be changed. I'm just wondering if this is addressed, Rick. I just don't know.
Well, we have to look at it how the drainage attorneys tell us with like a main ditch and county laterals, you're getting the outlet closer to them, so it's a benefit. We're trying to accomplish some of that with proximity, but if there's something like that close to the county system, it would be encouraged for them to tile it. We look at the coefficients of drainage as far as capacity based on everything being pattern tile, knowing it's not going to be. But everybody has the right to pattern tile. So if it changes hands, we know 2 or 3 landowners that anything they buy, they pattern tile. So we have to allow for the system being brought closer to that, but we can't figure, how do I say this? You have the right to drain it, and if the CSR is good, it's probably going to get a regular assessment, not a reduced one.
I know there's people with, you know, pattern tiled areas, but the area cannot be improved even though it's pattern tiled because of the outlet is inadequate. And some of that might be mains, some of it's privates.
True.
Yeah, you know.
And we really can't take the privates into account
No,
because we
not-
don't,
I
we
understand
can't
that,
verify.
but it still affects the productivity of the area.
Sure.
But I would dare say 80–90% of the problems is grade. The land is so low,
Yeah,
by the time you tile it, you got about a flat tile.
yeah. It
Are
would,
weather patterns come into play at all? No, or-
not really, because it's so spotty. I mean, you know, one spot might get 5 inches and 2 miles away they get half an inch or whatever. We just have to take in the drainage capacity. Now, most of these systems are undersized, the old ones. I mean, absolutely. So some of this is slow. Now, what we run into, I can't tell you the number of times we've been told we can't drain that area, it's too low. Well, if you get the pipe big enough, which is, the cost just skyrockets, you can get those drained. You don't have cover, you can put arch pipe in. That's about 2.5 times the round pipe price. There's ways, but sometimes it's cost prohibitive.
Question for the board or the auditor's office on, when work is performed in Winnebago County on the ditch, is that assessed just to those landowners in Winnebago County?
On this district?
On this district.
No, part of the bill would then, the percentage would go to Cassuth County, and they pay their portion. And the same if they work on their side, they send us a bill for our side.
But then that's done on their old schedule, or is
However
there
they
separate
want it.
schedules?
Yeah, because I don't know what they do. If the bill is $1,000 and we have 90%, we pay $900, they pay 10. They pay
How do you know
$100.
what that percent is now?
That's based on the original classification.
So then you're going back to the original.
Just that percent. Just the original percentage.
However, particularly with the annexations here, that percent has now changed.
No,
We kept it the
no,
same.
the acres wouldn't change.
It's based on the
Well, yes,
acres
it would
in
too.
each.
It would dilute it. In
But
this
we
case,
kept it the
diluted
same,
very
so we
little.
still had 90%, the 180 are now in that 90%, and we reclassified just.
Was
You figured
there a
out?
joint hearing, or was there a joint meeting where that was decided jointly?
We talked to them, and they did not want to reclassify, and we wanted to keep the same percentages. So, that's what.
I just find the whole joint district thing being odd, that you're acting as a separate district when it actually is a joint district.
But they didn't want to reclassify, and we did.
So
What
then
would you have done?
So then it's.
Well, actually,
then it's,
Winnebago County is ahead of the game on this one, because we've added acres, but our percentage is staying the same. As far between Cassuth and Winnebago. So they're actually.
And I actually have land in both Cassuth and Winnebago, so.
I have a schedule on the computer based on the $75,000 estimate to reclassify it. If you wanted to know what your portion was, I can show it to you. You just have to tell me a name and I'll scroll through to it.
So the total amount to be assessed is $75,000.
That's just what we paid. Yeah, that's just based on the original assessment now. So based on a $75,000 bill, say there's gonna be one.
Could you look up Ron and Tom Reed?
I can
Scroll it to that.
do that. There's a lot of people in here, I'm sorry.
You went by it.
You went by it.
Oh, I sure did. My scrolling skills are really good. Oh, God. I know. Right?
I only took pictures of.
Ah, ah,
Touchy.
it is touchy. Well,
It must jump off the arrow or something.
so, okay. So based on $75,000, it looks like you'd pay $20, another $200, and another $110. And that is it.
So the existing ones didn't change, it was just the additional annexation ones.
And that everything is in there now. They have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 parcels in this district.
You guys got too much land.
So we're paying extra for the annexation, but our rate didn't change?
No.
Oh, okay, that's what I was wondering, whether the rate changed.
According to those numbers
Yeah,
there.
no, that's what I wanted, thank you.
Well, I thought earlier the figure of $25, $27 was going out.
That would have been for just those annexed acres.
Yeah,
This is telling you all the acres you have in and out.
And then after you did that, then the charge.
Yeah, so this is gonna be your only bill. The annexation part is included in that $75,000.
So what's the two numbers?
It's because of, how they have their parcel listed in the system. Depending on how your name is written in there, it takes it each by name. Is that what you're
So
saying?
what's the difference between D and E columns?
Oh, D is the original assessment amount, and then I took it times 100% to get a $75,000 bill. So always D is going to be the original assessment, and E will be whatever a bill might be.
So D, by original, you mean from 170 a year
This
ago?
new $75,000 schedule, today's new schedule.
Today's new schedule.
Yep.
So how many miles away, where is this bridge even at?
What do you mean?
I'm wondering, where we're giving this help, how far is our water going to get to where this?
Oh.
Union Slope.
Then it overflows.
I give up.
Well, yeah, it starts at the Des Moines River, Sioux County.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how much this is gonna help me for what I'm paying versus what we were paying before.
All it is reclassifying the values as far as the future, any work that's done.
Any repairs.
Any repairs or cleaning, it's gonna be the portion that you pay, correct?
Correct, correct.
Line up when you can, once we have. You don't have any copies of this one to pass around, Rick?
It's, yeah.
I could read, you can go ahead.
Here, you can have this one. It's not in alphabetical order, so.
Yeah, you'll have to look by section in this
Okay,
one.
no, this would be easier, just.
Okay.
Yeah, this report, I mean, it's in the letter that I sent. If anybody wanted to look at it, I have a whole copy of it.
We could email this to somebody if they want.
No, sorry, it's too big.
Too big.
The people that have called,
Huge.
I recommended
Can
to
you
go
post it on
to
your
Rick's
website,
website because
Can you
it's
post it on
too
your website?
Trying to decide how, yeah.
You have
Won't
to
have
post
the
it.
dollar amounts in it, the one we proposed.
You know, can Eric send it, or is he?
The file is huge. They couldn't even send it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I only have a paper copy.
Okay.
Could we ask for a consensus in the room while we're looking for this? Does anybody here think it's worth the investment of $75,000 to get 168 acres put? As far as.
Let's expand a
Well-
little, trying to make the benefits more fair
I understand
today
that
than
there'll
they
be,
were.
in reevaluation, that there'll be some paying more and some paying less.
Yes.
I realize it's gonna be reevaluated, but, you know, I just wonder if the people that are here today feel it's worth the investment.
If I was gonna put a number on the annexation, I might say $1,500 or $2,000. I mean, it's just that little because of what we have to do for the reclassification. That's 90% of the work done. So it's, the 75,000 is nearly all for the reclassification. $2 an acre.
And if you remember Chris's explanation as far as the computer program and that, down the road, well.
It's just a lot cleaner in our new system.
I would have the comment that if you know, if you're updating something that's 70 years old, $2 an acre isn't very darn much. I mean,
And when I first started, we had
it
firms
just
that,
happens you pay it all at one time.
right,
Yeah.
and we had firms that wanted to do it at $5 an acre, so we didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
So that has come down, and we feel like it's more equitable now to do it. If we have a project that it doesn't need
Redo
it,
it every once in a while, you just can't go on the same statute.
I have a
same
short,
local rules of
short story that relates to that. Emmett County does very little drainage work. That's our home county. They found a district they really thought they should probably reclassify, but they were afraid the landowners were going to be very opposed to it. Well, they had an informal meeting to get all the landowners in and vote on it. When they heard $2 an hour, and they asked every landowner, or asked the landowners, everybody raised their hand. For $2, do it.
right.
So, yeah, 75,000 sounds like a lot of money. I agree. But $2 an acre is very economical for doing a reclassification.
But it's not always $2 an acre.
No, in smaller districts or with towns, yeah, it can get up to 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Small districts and
And then my
towns.
question that goes along with that is that should we, you know, have you considered, I'm sure you have many times, why don't we have our own engineer that does that here in our county when we're paying, you know, large amounts to do these things?
In certain instances of conflict of interest, and we can't.
Because secondary roads pays too. We come up with a percentage that secondary roads has to pay too. So they'd be assessing
In
themselves.
most instances, we can't do it by law.
Yeah.
There's only about 5 engineers in the state of Iowa that do drainage classes.
Really?
It's a specialized.
Yeah. There aren't that many.
Do you increase the runoff factor for roads, railroad?
Yes. Yes.
That's what he was asking. He said, no. So
What
he
is-
tried to
Do
clarify.
you know what that is?
No, it's changed a little bit through the years.
Is there any place on that chart where it shows the old rate and?
That's what we were just discussing. I missed it.
That's the important part to me.
Right.
The $2 an acre isn't anything, but what I wanna see is,
How did it change?
yeah,
Yeah,
we
and
got
I
the
don't know
low
what
peak
you
ground
mean.
and then are we gonna get 3-4 times as much charged again? You know, okay, you said use the soil type. The other one, you know, the other one was use slope. And you had that peak UNR. And the bottom peak ground was a real high number. The side hills were about 30% and the top hills were 0. Well, if you're using soil, that peak ground's still gonna be the high and the side hill. And we had, the guy from Lake Mills was in there with us, and he had 80 acres of peak ground, and the guy above him pattern tiled, and had the side hills. His all drained and backed up into the peak ground. The peak ground paid all the taxes, and he paid nothing on the side hills. So what I'm saying is, okay, when you're doing this, is there a different rate you can charge on the low peak ground and a higher rate you can charge on the side hills to even this out? Because in modern farming, the side hills and everything else is tiled, and the mains are the same size. So the low ground is really behind the 8 ball and
The
everything.
low ground is storing the water.
Yes.
We've evened this out considerably over what it used to be. And we've done even more in the last 5 years based on commissioner input. For example, the Clarions, we were charging them next to nothing years ago. But now with the pattern tiling, side hill seeps, we've upped the amount of benefit we put on those. We have tried to make it, I call it spreading it out. The ones with the lowest, flattest ground still pay more, of course, but the difference isn't near as drastic as it was originally. I can't tell you how
what
it's
I
changed.
want, you know, I'd like to see what our, you know, farm now compares to again, because we got low ground and the other farms do. To me, I understand the low ground, but the low ground was always paying more. Now all of a sudden, the low ground is paying a lot more again.
Yeah, we spread it out. A lot of that came from working with a commissioner in Humboldt County who owned a lot of land and had done tiling for 40 years. And that the discussion was, that's too little on that land. Their water is running off, the high ground is running off, people down below have to
And we had
get
serious
rid of it.
discussions on this on DD1 lat 4 sub 1, whatever that one.
Oh, yes.
Everything was being stored on this one area, and I was complaining. So they're getting all the benefit up here, and they're having to store it down here. You were involved in that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've had a lot of input on it.
Yeah.
And the other rub is, you think you rectify a problem, but then the state statutes come in and tell you can't do it.
Yeah.
You know, so a lot of this stuff is dictated by state law, unfortunately.
Yeah, drainage law is a whole different cat, boy. It's, yeah.
Once you vote for reclassification here, guys, then Rick goes ahead and does the reclassification, correct?
Well, it's done, ready for review, subject to approval.
Oh, okay, so we really haven't had an opportunity to look at the areas that are.
Well, it's just,
We sent out a notice to.
It was sent out probably.
I know, but I didn't get a map or any clarification. I had to come to Chris. I haven't been here. We've been working through tax time, guys. It's been a very busy time of the year.
Yeah, the hearing has to be at least 40 days after the report's submitted. That's when we're done with our work on it. And then, so they set that, and then you have to back up 20 days from that date, and then you have to have it published and mailed to the landowners at least 20 days before the hearing. So you should have had it at least 3 weeks, probably. But, yeah, I know, it's a busy time.
But I mean, we sent out a letter before we decided to do this, to see if there was any objections.
No.
No. Do that?
No.
Typically, no. If there's a need,
Well, we need to talk about that.
I think that's a lot of people's concerns, is that, you know, you don't always know just exactly what's happening and how it's going to impact, honestly, just your bottom line.
I
How
agree
much
with
it's
you.
gonna cost. You know, if, we just wanna know if it's gonna cost 2 or 10.
Yeah, well, again, my deal, the $2 is a minor deal. But if our rate goes up 3 times, that's 70 more years. You follow that we're gonna be paying that higher much rate.
But correct me if I'm wrong, Rick, I don't think we'll find that out until he does the report.
right, that's correct. And the whole idea is to try and make it
But what's the
more
report?
fair.
When you send the letters out, what's the report done?
Pardon?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so then when you sent the letter to us on our farm, couldn't you said this was your old tax valuation, this is your new tax valuation?
And that's something that in the past for me, no one has asked before, so my apologies, but I didn't keep the old schedule like I have it right here, and I will in the future.
Well, this schedule doesn't show the old.
This is just
No.
$2 an acre.
No.
This is just
Yeah.
the
No,
new,
this isn't what I'm concerned about.
right,
What
and I
I'm
don't
concerned
know,
about is,
I would have to go backwards, and I don't know if I could do that to get what it was before. I just have what it is now,
okay,
so.
The problem with the notice before a reclassification is people really, this law is confusing. I mean, even people that are commissioners on these reports, we have to fill them in on a lot of information, go over code sections. The landowner doesn't have that luxury of being able to pull that all information together and decide if a reclassification is warranted. I can tell you if a reclassification is over 30 or 40 years old, a reclassification is warranted. I mean, everything we've seen over the last 25 to 30 years, that's every time. Old classifications were drastically different for the different.
This is answering your question, Sue.
Pardon?
Could you start over? This is answering your question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Well, no, it's just, it takes so much information. We go in often and look at classifications and decide if they're unbalanced. Is it cost spread fairly? The old ones are completely different than the new ones. I don't care what firm does the reclassification, drastic difference. The costs have been spread so that the people along the ditch are no longer paying 90 to 95% of the project because it's already there. The land has a completely different view than it did originally. So it gets spread out. And years ago, some of the land distant from the district, from the ditch, there's no way they'd put tile in. It wasn't warranted. It was pasture ground. So we have taken that cost and spread it out. Now the higher ground still pays significantly less, they don't need the drainage as much. So, and the people down below do have to deal with the water from up above. So I've had more than one drainage attorney say that's a benefit to the ground up above. Someone is taking care of their water. So they still pay, and it's more than it used to be, but it's still less than the lower ground. Yeah, I went through a file for Emmett County here recently. Back in 1970, we were charging $1.25 an acre for reclass, but we were also charging $10 an hour for a registered engineer. I mean, the cost for doing the work has gone way up as far as what you pay the engineering rate, but the cost per acre has not gone up that much to do the report. Just technology is really helping us.
So before you do one, do you submit some type of an estimate to the?
Typically, yes. Some of them are so small, we don't.
Well, which question? An estimate for what the acre will cost for reclass?
Oh,
or for what it's gonna cost down the road? That's, I think, what you said.
Our engineering costs, we have an engineering agreement on every project with the county. And most of the time, there's a price per acre that we come up with.
And that's put before this board?
Yes, yeah.
But that's just for reclass.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, you're right. Good point. It's not for future repairs. Yeah.
I don't quite understand. The old classification has to be somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the minutes.
Yeah. So the person wanted to find out what it was.
Yeah.
Because if you guys voted it down, what would you have? You have to do it away.
Well, no, I don't throw anything.
I just wanted,
Just the computer part is gone.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask the question. Okay.
I'm not,
There has to be record somewhere.
I'm not sure I'd wanna know what the old
Yeah, that's a good
schedule say,
point.
because if I'm paying more, I'm gonna be against it. If you're paying less, you're gonna be for it,
Well, I
so.
don't,
Yeah, that's a good point.
It's one thing to pay some more. So
Yeah.
I don't want
So
to
we're
say
back
like
to-
300%, you know.
All is not fair in Loveborn drainage.
Yeah.
Well, as long as this is fair, and I'm sure it is, that's what we're here for.
Yeah.
On average, you hope it's the fairest it can be.
Yeah, yeah,
But there's gonna be extremes both ways.
absolutely. Individual situations, there's no way to know about. Yeah.
My point was just, they have to be there somewhere.
Yeah, they're all typed. The one I was looking at in Emmett County, it was, they hand drew with an ink pen the lines to divide into columns, and then the numbers were typed in on that, and then horizontal lines. Yeah, there's one.
Yeah, this is what it looks like. For every northeast, what section, and I would have to go into our plat books and find the northeast of the northwest to find out what parcel it was to make sure it was correct. Now they've done the work for me, and I have the parcels, and it will forever be there. And I don't have to double check anything.
It ends up saving time in the auditor's office.
And I would hope that after the 9 years that I've been here, you guys know that I don't want to just charge out money to landowners. I don't like to do it. So I wouldn't do this unless I thought it was necessary.
And she's very good at having us combine visits. You know, if I come over here, I try and do some work on 3 or 4 projects. So it doesn't cost any of them very much.
I'm still a little hazy on the sub-districts that have already been reevaluated. Are those sub-districts still paying $2 an acre into the entire project, or are they not on that list?
The people that their water goes to this ditch, no matter what district they're in, are in here.
Okay, so
If you're in District 43, because it's a tile system that dumps into DD3, DD 43 is still its own classification. But it also uses the ditch.
I understand that.
So I didn't reclassify 43.
It's not being reclassified, however, but are we paying $2 an acre on those areas? Is that on this list? Or is that not being charged?
Are they paying $2 to reclassify DD1 or DD?
The subs that have been reclassified like a year
DD
ago.
43 is no longer part, it's not
So
separate.
everybody in this red line
Yes.
is paying into
Okay,
this.
okay, and we had some that was reclassified a year ago.
Yep, and that's a separate classification. This is the classification for 3.
So that will not be reclassified, however, is that area being charged on the larger?
Yes. Everything that's in that red line is being charged.
Okay, so we're gonna pay $2, but it won't be reclassified.
Right,
Correct.
right.
Well, it seems a little inequitable.
Say,
You
okay,
know,
now
that's
that
why,
runs
you
it.
know, it's not in here.
You got,
43 is in
So
there,
you got
but
100
43 is
acres.
not being reclassified, but 43 is in there.
So,
100 acres is or 50 acres is reclassified, and 50 acres isn't. Are you gonna be charged for the 100 acres or for the 50 acres?
Just the parcels that use this facility, just the DD3.
So just be
Ditch.
50 acres.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
acres
If
agree.
50 acres go the other way, we don't care, I don't care about that. Just the ones that go into this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, you've answered my question, but I don't understand why the sub-districts that have been reclassified are paying again. Because I paid $2 last year, now I'm paying $2 again.
2 different reports.
I understand, but you're doubling up.
Yeah, because it's,
But the
one's for
same
the
parcel
ditch.
shouldn't be going to 2 different districts. I mean, it could be, but,
It's a sub part of it, but that was reclassified and they paid for it last year.
and which district was that?
Oh, that's that section 27 and 28.
I think that's at
West of Townsend.
110 outside of Thompson.
It's just west of Townsend.
So,
That reclass was for the tile in that
There
sub-district.
was a ditch cleaning, but it was all
Okay.
reclassified as a sub-district.
Okay.
And now that we're part of the greater picture, we're paying for it again.
This is the red line.
Yeah.
Why is there a sub-district? Why isn't it just simply in this district?
Historically, for some reason, that area was wet, so the landowners got together, probably petitioned to establish a sub-district and put tile in to get their water to the ditch. So it's usually landowner action that warrants these sub-districts. And
Wouldn't that simply be a private?
no, it can be, a lot of them are private, but these were established going through the whole process of Chapter 468 for establishment of a sub-district, just like you'd start a new district. So yeah, again, part of the confusion of drainage.
To make it simple, can we abolish a sub-district and put it in?
No, the problem with that is, if they need repair on that tile, how do they pay for that?
Because the people that are in the rest of the district aren't gonna benefit at all from that tile.
From a tile
So
repair.
why should they pay for it?
There you go. Yeah, that's a good summary right there.
Like in DD1 and DD8, we abolished A, just it absorbed into 1 because
Yeah.
1 went through 8.
All the way through
same
it.
section, the sub-district is paying for repairs, let's say, right here in
True.
311.
True,
So it balances out.
but
Or
the,
But they're
theoretically,
they're using the facility though, in a sense.
right,
whatever.
and Gary, to answer your question, we did DD3, Lat 5, and Lat 7 last year because they had those big projects.
I understand
So
that,
that's why.
but I paid for a reclassification there.
No, you just paid for, you didn't pay for the classification. That's all on the main ditch. You paid for the engineering of that clean out or the clean out itself, and that's it.
There was a reclassification there.
Right, but we didn't pay for that classification until now.
Oh.
We had one done, but the charges for that are not billed yet. Because it all goes on
Who's that being
DD3.
charged to? 3?
3.
So you didn't pay for it then?
You didn't pay for the classification yet.
Not yet.
these latter,
That's what I'm-
Well, at least he's not gonna pay for it twice, so.
District 43 didn't pay for it.
That
Right.
reclassification was only for that work then.
Yes,
However, those numbers will carry forward to the new grand total.
yes.
yes.
Okay. That was my
Does
question.
that make better sense? I
Well,
finally
well,
figured out what,
It
yeah,
didn't make any sense to pay for reclassification twice.
yeah, and you're
If
not.
it was already done and billed, it didn't make sense to pay for
And
it.
it was done but not billed.
Well, it was done, but it was only billed for that work, correctly?
Yes, yep.
But those evaluations will be used in this new system
Yes,
for the entire project.
yes, yeah. I believe I'm catching that
I think I'm
right.
understanding you, I'm sorry.
Well, I don't want to pay for reclassification twice.
Right.
Before?
The work that was done to clean out those 2 laterals has been billed. And I needed the reclass done to make sure that the right people were paying. But the actual
Get down to brass
cost,
tacks, who's paying for the reclass of 43?
43 is just a non-existent, that's not even in here.
All right,
So,
or for Gary's.
DD 110,
So,
okay, when you paid into DD lat 7, you paid for just the repairs of DD 3 lat 7. The classification part of that is now gonna get billed this September, because it's part of DD 3, which you're gonna pay for.
And it was my understanding that that reclassification was paid for. I'm sorry, I didn't know that.
Okay, and no,
Because we had,
because,
we had to visit about it. I got the information from you. So if there was an error, it was no big deal, but it has been reevaluated. And those numbers will be on the big project, and that's when it will be built. Okay.
Yep.
Just didn't want to continue,
Right.
churning reclassification that's already been done.
yeah, and you're not,
I mean, you shouldn't pay for it 2 years in a row.
no,
Okay,
Nope.
thank you.
I'm getting it.
Okay, any further questions on the reclassification? All right, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the reclassification of 311.
I'll make the motion. Second.
And motion to Bill and second. Mike to close the public hearing for the reclassification report on 3-11. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Okay, I just have a question. What did we do today? Did we approve the annexation
We have
report?
not approved any reports yet.
Okay,
Just had the hearings is all.
and does anybody have any questions on those, or can we go ahead and approve them? What is your consensus?
We can't anyway, it's not on the agenda.
Oh,
I think
My
we're
bad.
kind of in concurrence here that we would like to do a continuance of like 2 weeks. So anybody that wants to look at anything, they can possibly look at it. We'll come back 2 weeks from now and we'll, discuss after. Is that enough time, you think?
Yeah, as long as people take a look at it right away.
We still have to move forward.
Can I have a copy of what's on the wall up there?
yeah, you sure can.
You got the whole thing or just your stuff? I want the whole thing.
Nothing better than knowing everybody else's business.
Hell yeah, everybody wants to know my business, why the hell can't I know theirs?
Now you go up to the coffee shop for theirs.
Hell yeah.
I want to neighbor man. I want to see it's called.
I don't even know. It's 40 pages. Let me fix the margin.
I gotta keep up with Rochester.
All it's gonna reflect is $2 an acre.
Yeah.
That's all it's gonna reflect.
Yeah.
40 pages. I don't want it.
They're gonna pay it anyway.
Matter of fact, the first page of my report, all but 2 of the parcels are under $2 an acre. The ag ground usually ends up less than that.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to print it to. I keep losing my mouse, I'm so sorry.
Most of them are that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's 40 pages. Are you excited about that?
You want them
How can it do 40 pages?
Well.
Mike got the 48.
It's all of Thompson.
Yeah, there's 13.
There it is.
I don't know the number that says right underneath the bottom there by the grand total, what that number is.
40s.
It's
All the way up northwest, or northeast of Thompson. And
Like
all
right
the way
here?
down.
Be put online,
1,000
Chris?
acres per
I'm sorry?
hectare.
That just can't be put on.
There you go. Yeah, I like that.
Well, just give me my part.
There we go.
Sure.
Now we're getting down to somewhere.
Maybe you
Trying
should
to
make
do
one
what-
copy and everybody takes their page.
Right? Yeah, I'm trying to do what's right here.
Rick, so Terry,
Even
why-
40
why
pages
can't it
of an
be put
Excel
online?
spreadsheet
Then
with
people can get what they
that big.
want.
Oh, I know. I don't know how it is that way, but this is just the main.
It's just too much.
So the rest of it makes it 4 or 5 times this thick.
Wasn't smart enough to
because there's so many laterals. Yeah. I know, it just doesn't make sense. And we have trouble getting it to the counties in a form they could just use.
Are you assessing just against the main?
That's the important part, is it?
Yes.
All the reclass is just against the main?
Yeah, that's what you're
Yes.
doing, aren't you?
Yes.
We need this and.
Wait, I've already got it, though, I should put this on.
Are you the EI or the IE?
It's the market date.
Yeah, those.
So if the bill is gonna be $75,000, you're gonna pay about $65.
That's beer money, Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah, but beer money, beer money. I don't want to start cutting into that budget.
When did Bob cut down?
I'm gonna increase. Give me a copy of those two. Can you do that?
Yeah, it's just one parcel. It gives a subtotal after each landowner, so even though you have the one.
Yep.
Yeah, I printed it across the hall. We'll see if it's
Okay.
printed.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any questions?
How hard would it be to look up mine on your old one that I could just take a screenshot of it?
You can't, because my system, I have updated it to the new.
On that, on your old,
Oh,
Well, that old
using
book.
the book?
Oh, that'll take me a while because I'll have to look at each parcel.
yeah, okay. I could come over someday and look at it.
Sure can, because it's by section. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably won't do that.
Sounds
And,
good till
and
it
you
gets
know what?
complicated, right?
That is why half the reason why I want to reclassify it is because to make sure that it's right, I will have to go through each line to know what parcel is in there, and if there's a house and a farm, if it's in the city, I have to get each.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
Well, I came in ahead of time and looked at this too and just took screenshots of what I needed. But this would not be, this would be much more difficult to look up those, I mean,
It's gonna be on a lot of different pages.
yeah, okay.
I mean, you can certainly look at it.
Feel
free.
Probably wouldn't take it too long, just yours.
Right, I'm only
Yeah.
interested in
Yeah.
3, you know?
So if you know the restrictions.
Rick, you do have the colored pictures again this time for the reclassification.
Colored pictures, you mean the aerial photographs?
Well, I mean, when you reclassified this other one that we visited about, you have the percentages outlined on I don't know if it's an aerial or just a.
DD1, we did it that way, we had, I thought at DD1 we did some color aerial, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember what the aerial showed, because we have different ones we
The
use.
percentage that you paid.
Oh, you had this,
Is that the adjustment factors?
Yes.
Oh, the proximity factors?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. I wasn't saying it correctly.
Yeah,
That's just one part of it.
yeah.
Yeah, but that to a great extent determines what your contribution would be.
Now, the problem with this one was that on a separate sheet, handwritten, we have what each zone is as far as percentage. I can give you this. This red is where everybody's paying the full amount. And then for each color you go out, we reduce it 5%. So the orange is 5%, the yellow is 10, this green is 15, then 20, then 25. I can give you this.
Yeah, and I guess I was interested in, single farms. I got some farms in gravel hills. And after that, driven by soil type, that would be affected. Now, this is just proximity to the ditch, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have that also on soil types by the farm?
I have the printout. It's about this thick of the soils
I understand
per
it.
parcel.
I understand it would be thick. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see how you'd evaluate it. These gravel hills don't grow much. They grow a little. But drainage isn't a factor. I just wondered how you evaluate it.
And one thing the soils characteristics bring in, some of them say underlain with sand. We knock those down to almost zero. So if the soil description has that in it, which it should, I would think,
I don't know that, I haven't seen it yet.
yeah.
I don't need the whole thing, I just wanted to see mine.
I can let you look at,
Dig through to find them, it's not a
yeah.
problem.
We do each parcel and how many acres of each soil is in each parcel. We have a printout of that. But it's a lot of information.
Well, I just didn't know if it was a map or if it's a percentage thing.
No, there's just so much to include. You'd have to get the drawings so big to be able to read all these that we just do it in the chart.
On a small district, that's a lot easier.
Oh, heavens, yes. Oh, yeah, because we can blow it
The
up.
other one was evaluated with a picture with percentages, colors, designated the different contributions.
And we did that when we did the district, and the guy that was sitting there in front of you, Kent Brody, he did that in the Forest City district in South, and it cost like $5.50 per acre. And so you got all those maps, but it was on a smaller district, and it cost us.
I just didn't know if you had it.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, that's
We
the
use
explanation for landowners is when you look at that map. It was very nice. It had value.
We use the ledger sheet that has a summary of acres and of each type of soil, and that's what we used to put the report together, but not an aerial with the color.
So what is involved exact? Is it distance that the water flows, and then soil type, and then an elevation? Is that basically the three ingredients?
Well, elevation comes in somewhat in that the clarions are always higher elevation, more slope. Slope comes
Well,
in.
your soil type can tell you.
Yeah, soil type, it's amazing. If you actually sit down with that soils book, and read the description of each of those soils, it's amazing what it does.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, come back, it's right.
Yeah.
How do they, charge their pattern tile?
No different.
It's the same?
Yeah, it's the same.
It's up to you.
The code doesn't
How
allow
come
that.
that's the same? If somebody piles higher, pattern tiles are something I want to watch.
Everybody has the right to do pattern tiling. That's how the religious code you look at it.
Well, this is the,
Everybody has the same right, but sometimes it's not worth it.
That didn't print out over there, so it'll, and I have to keep in the meeting, can you come back another day? That would be great, and I.
Do you have that piece of paper with the different colors, like where the tile, that one sheet?
The proximity thing?
The one that Gary has, or?
See, no, not that one. The first ones you handed out.
Oh, yeah.
We can sure make copies for.
yeah. See, we've got one here.
This was just the annexation.
Yep.
Is that the one you
But
wanted?
it shows the district boundary.
It does show the boundaries.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
And then you come anytime and
I can
we'll go
stop
through the
you
rest.
anytime.
You bet, you bet. Yep. I'm here for you.
There you go.
I'm here for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. All right.
Just will get the whole works so you can.
Can't we land in this district or what?
You do evaluate.
Yes, he does.
Okay, I was surprised when he showed up.
So excited.
Can you tell us?
What's that? Yeah.
Landed both this and if the shoot was done, he had one there.
Land there too, okay.
I'm gonna
Okay.
go with, well, parcel 3, here, parcel 3 is secondary
I
road.
came back, I thought I was gonna get a big
Yeah, sorry.
Because you're at 100%.
And then the other ones, I would have to look up individually, but when they have a parcel number, that's usually conservation. So, because all of secondary roads, if your buildings are in the district, they're gonna be in your parcel number.
Parcel number, right?
So they typically don't have their own. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, the roads have 1,059 acres, because this is so big.
They may be coming back. Who knows?
Yeah, you wouldn't think it could add up to.
No, you wouldn't. But an acre every, what, quarter mile? How does that work out? No, it's,
For the right of way.
yeah, for the right of way, yeah, so
I
all
was figuring
there.
a half a mile, 20 foot was about an acre.
3 foot, yeah, what does that amount to? If
I
I knew
do-
rods and chains better, I know.
Yeah, 16 and a half feet.
Thank you, Rick.
Yeah.
This is the evaluation on proximity to the
Yes.
to the big ditch.
To the big ditch.
Okay.
Exactly.
And then there's additional evaluations on soil type.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, yep.
Sorry for the debate on the other. I understood that we had paid for the reclassification in that earlier.
Obviously not, Bill,
It was
because we
done,
knew this was coming.
yes,
And you see, I didn't realize that.
and I'm sorry, yes,
And I didn't know it, and I thought, well, we just paid for this. Why would we do it again?
right,
And you just assumed that what
Yeah.
we paid for was that was in it.
yes.
Yeah, well, we talked all through it. I
Right,
had that
and we
minor
only talked
adjustment,
about-
not a big deal.
Yeah,
Yeah, we only talked about those 2 laterals.
Yeah, and
I wanted to do those because we had those large bills, and I
But
didn't
I-
want people to wait for that.
they deserve to be paid. I just was not having it in my head because we've gone all through that. I thought it had been done.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know it, but I asked. Because it looked to me like we were just doing it twice, and then we're doing it again.
Yep.
Yeah, it looked that way.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
not having that explained, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, well, we need to keep moving.
Thank you.
Oh, we have,
Do you have the soil, does she have the soil type report?
No, that's something we just keep.
Yeah.
I can get that for you.
I just need it on my property.
Okay.
But I've got 4 sections involved here. And I
Should
just,
you just call their office when you get a chance?
got a card. I think I've got it somewhere.
Going pretty soon too, so I don't think
we got just about,
anything to do with that.
I just want to see how it evaluated.
Sure.
These little gravel hills to me,
The good gravel.
they don't produce worth a damn. And you wouldn't realize it was on the farm. I'm just interested to see how they evaluate it. Thank you.
Well,
You bet.
we're just looking for good road gravel.
You need some gravel.
I ended up buying that August.
Okay, so.
Some combination of the.
Sorry.
Not sure if it's listed.
I just want to keep moving.
Yep.
We're gonna go to 2 weeks to the.
Well, they have to figure out.
Discussion.
Yeah, my apologies for not having
Well, they had a
it.
lease, transfers from one owner to the next.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you can do whatever length you want.
Crushing here in the spring.
March 26th.
There was something better than that.
Or do you want to wait until we do the manual that's
That's what I was,
Yeah.
That's fine with me.
yeah.
There's no rush on it.
No.
No, let's do that, because then you only
This
have.
question has been asked long before I was.
So we're
here,
gonna do
so.
this,
Okay, I don't want to be rude, but if you could take it outside
Fine,
or.
thank you.
Let's take it outside.
I'll get a hold of Rick for that other.
Thank
Yeah.
you, I appreciate it.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 8, cover that one while
Well, we're still talking, I'm sorry, can I, because it pertains to this.
Okay.
We should, would it be easy to get an email list so that,
No,
it would,
for 1,200 people in just this one district, how am I gonna get that? And
That's the
how-
problem, it's so many people,
Yeah.
so many landowners.
well, where I was going with this is I don't want to spend money doing it, but, we should let them know ahead of time what our thoughts are going, we should,
Well,
it would give, if I was a landowner, it'd be nice to know we're considering classifying it.
But as trustees, that's your role. I mean.
I understand
so-
that, but I think if they would have known,
And
It's
what I'm caught off guard by is in the past, no one has asked about what it was before, what it is now. In the future, I will obviously keep this old schedule, so they can compare old to new. So that's my fault for not keeping
No, that's
it. I
fine.
changed the system and then that information is gone. I have it, but I would have to
But
recreate
Sue
it.
said it, she says, well, you've already decided to do it, so there's nothing we can do about it in this public hearing, so.
And that's true, because you've already decided that the
Right,
classification wasn't equitable, and
Right.
you wanted to make it right.
And the people that pay for it should have some input in a sense, if they want this to happen or not.
I'm not saying we should do that, I'm just bringing it up to discuss.
And the letter says that I have the whole schedule. The letter says to call me if you have any questions.
But that's
And
after
people-
we've decided to do it.
Right. But their amount could change if they felt it needed to be different. If they felt their soils were doing this or they weren't in it, they can be reduced. That's the time to talk about it. The classification should still go through because it still is gonna be more equitable than what it was 70 years ago.
To some people.
To some people.
I'll stand by our decision to move forward with this.
And I will too, I'm just saying, it was brought up, that they wanna be notified before we even make a decision. And if
I
that's what
wonder
they
if that's
want,
because they were burned so bad on the other one, and I understand that. But to get everybody's information, I don't know how I
Okay.
could possibly.
And at $2 an acre,
no, that's not where they were coming from.
I know, yeah.
It's the classification, it's not the cost.
Yeah, they just,
Right.
they may have liked the old classification much better
Right.
than the new one.
Yeah.
But the-
Whether it's fair or not is,
Right.
you know,
And-
yeah.
All right, drop it, let's go on.
When are you gonna revisit this?
We're gonna let you know.
We're gonna decide real quick here.
Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 8, so that'll let us know when that is, okay. Number 8, we're gonna set the final public hearing date for DD1, Lat 2, DD1, Lat 4.
Lat 2 was by Corey Jurgens Construction, and Lat 4 was by Rognus Brothers. And we submitted final pay estimates and have recommended acceptance of the jobs. Now, Larson is going to be doing some repair out there because of the year we had last year. There are some slough offs need some attention. That's going to be completely separate. They've finished their obligations.
Mother Nature just wasn't very kind.
Oh, God, what a disaster.
Bad year to clean a ditch.
Oh, yeah. So the 10
I would
days
say-
following publication and mailing.
Right, so 40 days would give us April 23rd or April 30th.
Which one do you want?
I don't care.
What do you think, Rick, on your schedule?
Well, I'm that far out, I'm good.
April 23rd, okay with you?
I mean, look, they have 1 or 2 things out that far. Yeah, I'm wide open.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to set April 23rd at 9 a.m. for the public hearing date for DD1, Lat 2, and DD1, Lat 4. Is that April 23rd at 9 a.m.?
For which one?
It's number 8.
No, if we start at 9, we can't discriminate.
Okay, 9:05.
It's,
Go with your.
I'll
when
second.
we start at 9, we
Yeah.
gotta go right to
From
it.
Derby and a second from Jensvold to set the public hearing date for DD1 Lat 2 and DD1 Lat 4 for April 23rd at 9:05. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. So then we will set on our agenda the approval of 6 and 7 after that.
Yes.
We don't have to time them, I don't think, but just after that change, put them on the agenda.
Yes, I'll put a time on it though.
Okay.
I think it's a code thing.
Oh, okay.
Time and place.
All right.
Yeah, and if it doesn't happen at that exact minute,
I mean, like this.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks, Chelsea. Yes.
That's when you'll talk about,
That'll be the day we talk about a lot of drainage.
Yeah, so that'll be the same day as,
that's April 23rd.
Oh,
The
you know
first
what?
ones don't affect you,
No,
but
I
they
see.
probably won't take long, and what are we gonna set it at?
I don't know, because for one, I need to look at the agendas for
April?
April 23rd. Just to make sure there's nothing else on it. Nope, we're good.
Okay,
So if we have 9:05,
9:15.
for DD1 Lat 2 is gonna be 9:05.
Yeah.
DD1 Lat 4 is gonna be 9:15. Because they're separate.
yeah, they're separate
So you need
projects.
to separate them.
Oh, wait a minute, which one was 9:05?
DD1 Lat 2.
No, number 8 was 9:05.
I'm right here.
Yeah. There's 2 different ones in there.
Oh, okay,
You just combined them,
All right.
yeah.
I see.
So DD1 Lat 2 will be at 9:05.
Make the other one at 9:03, then 9:02, because it
DD
takes us
one
only
left.
30 seconds to approve the minutes, so.
DD1 Lat 4 is 9:15.
Oh, okay.
Or 9:10, I don't care.
Well, as long as we don't have too much discussion, which I'm guessing we have plenty of it today, so.
So it's up to you guys.
do the one at 9:05.
Well, it's just like this, if we go over, I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
We just go on.
At least everybody will be there in time, because if it's at 9:10 and we do it at 9:15,
Okay,
then
so
they'll still be
then
here.
we'll do the 3 annexation at 9:30. And then we can do like Scott in the middle, myself in the middle for drainage work. Fillers. And then we'll do the reclass at 9:35.
Yeah.
Or we can go 9:20, 9:25.
Let's just keep the same time we had before.
Okay. But now, you won't get another letter.
I'm not looking for another letter, I'll just put it on my calendar.
There you go.
Right,
And then
right.
if there's something, I'm gonna talk to Rick, and I wanna look at a couple of farms. And I will be in touch with him, so it doesn't have to be rehashed on the 23rd, because you wanna know previous to that if we want any modifications or to visit about it. We've got one farm that's a strange farm, it's fairly heavy on one end, the other end's gravel hills. And I just wanna see how it's classified.
Sure.
Now's the time. Thank you. 23rd, around 9:30.
Yep, there you go.
Rick, I'll call you.
Okay, I'll have that available.
So,
I'll probably have one of the young engineers that actually works this up, talk to him, because he'll be able to go through the list a lot faster than I do. Because it doesn't have the names on it, it just has the description, so.
is that it for those drainage?
Enough already, right?
I was gonna say, I hope so.
Well, we still have number 4.
I have nothing.
I do, sorry. No, this is just information. I was with Elliot yesterday, so we called Brian from NRCS, and he is supposed to come. He gave us, anyway, tentative, that he will be here next week to meet with Elliot and me. And,
Are you gonna meet just out at the site?
I think he's coming right out of the shop.
Oh, okay.
This is just to, go through the eligibility of crap and stuff like that, so nobody else seems to be here, unless they want to be. So, that is in the works. It's starting to get taken care of.
Okay. Is that it for drainage then?
That's it.
Well, let's skip down to our 10 o'clock public hearing for the budget then.
Motion to open the public hearing?
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Sandy and a second for Jensel to open the public hearing for the budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Comments?
Comments? Have there been any written comments submitted?
Make a motion to close.
I'll second it.
Okay. Motion from Senator and a second from Jensel to close the public hearing for the budget. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider for approval, budget and budget resolution.
Thank you, I'll slip out of here.
Yeah,
Call me if anything you need, really, so anytime.
Thank you.
Bet.
I'll make a motion to approve the budget. Is it 2 separate motions or approve the budget as presented and then also the resolution? Because there's a resolution for the budget, so that should be good enough, I would think.
So we basically approved in the budget with its resolutions.
Yeah, that would be my wording. By resolution.
I'll second.
Okay, I got a motion from Derby and a second from General to approve the budget by resolution. All those in favor say aye.
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 Present.
Okay, I got one present. Okay, we'll go back up to number 5, the liquor license for the barn.
I'll make a motion to approve the liquor license for the barn in the center.
Motion for Jensen, and a second for Stenford to approve the liquor license for the barn by Buffalo Center. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Consider for approval auditors transfers.
Well, did you enjoy that rousing discussion about drainage?
Oh yeah,
I
I
saw you-
especially love how this is like tilted this much off the wall, and there's one lady who was leaning against it, and it was kind of bouncing on
While
the
you were just
phone.
waiting for it to come down. Huh?
Yeah, I was like, oh gosh.
I'll second it.
I got a motion from Spencer and a second from Jansvold to approve the auditors transfers. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
I noticed how you were on the edge of your seat during that drainage. You were really absorbing it.
Oh yeah.
Open floor.
Alright.
That's approved to sign. What else was stamped?
Yeah, that was one that I forgot part of the thing last week, so you already approved the amount.
Yeah.
Okay, y'all, they're both.
Y'all, yeah, that's right.
Y'all do that.
Y'all?
Well, this has signatures, right?
Nope.
Oh, it does.
No, it's all electronic. You
So
just
it's
approve it.
stamped.
No, you don't really,
Oh, really?
I don't think you ever have.
I thought we stamped it.
Okay.
Approved. Yeah, if we approved it, it should be either have the signatures on it or it should be stamped, I would think.
I would say stamp it.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't think we'll be chastised for doing it like this. Any other for open forum? Anyone?
No.
You sure?
What was Rick's last name?
Which one?
Rick's
Rick Hopper.
Hopper?
Hopper.
Oh, Hopper.
Hopper.
Okay.
Yeah.
He's with Jacobs.
Just like the grasshopper.
So,
He makes
hearing no
bugs fly.
no further business, we stand adjourned. Yeah, we kinda got our public, our budget discussion out during secondary road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised everyone left when you said you would address the Class B, Class A thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then everyone left, and I was like, that discussion wasn't over, though.
Yeah, they probably forgot about it.
Yeah, not you
Or they were satisfied with what they had heard, or not satisfied, they knew it was a moot point.
Well,
Probably.
I mean, yeah, we can make these things into 4-lane highways if we want to. I mean, it just all, but it also comes into the fact, you know, we have such fancy equipment, we can't afford to use it to upgrade our roads. There's people that say that too, so. So at some point, we need to start taking,
Already stamped this one.
Yeah.
I say we can stamp it.
Go stamp happy. Could I see the sign-in sheet for the first?
Yep. Yep.
So, everybody's pretty much signed the reclass and the annex, so.
Right.
You can pick one.
Okay.
Okay, and remember, you gotta use only that one control.
This, I can't, this will have to be changed.
Yep,
That's my digital guide,
No.
so it'll have to be
We'll
changed,
reprint it.
The order's been put in, so.
because I don't know what present means.
Whenever.
Just means he was here, but he wasn't here for the discussions.
I have.
So he doesn't know what he's approving in a sense.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, so I'm hoping that you're soon.
Would it have made any difference in the big picture? Well, I haven't had it, so the two were going for it anyway. But
Yep,
it's- and technically, that's the way it should be done.
Gotcha.
That's why King did it on that one.
Yeah, okay, we'll talk to you later.